we're going to have some real stuff going on. So, Cheech, are you ready for this? What are your sort of first thoughts on this slate and how it's going on with the playoffs? I mean, we got a pretty fun thing coming up.
I'm excited about it. I'm excited that famous last words. I'm excited that the guys I think are gonna play. Hopefully, we're gonna get to see their best shots, and I'm excited as a fan, and I'm excited for DFS also. I think the slate is very. On the one hand, it's straightforward. On the other hand, that means it's kind of hard to be different. You don't want to get too different. And I'm interested to see where you're at, especially on DraftKings. FanDuel, I'm probably too chalky. I was actually across the board on FanDuel, but I didn't see what else to do. So, but DraftKings will be interesting to see where we end up, I think.
Okay, game by game. We're not going to bring it up on the screen for you guys because it's a little bit hard to see, and also you guys have the games in front of you, so you can sort of follow along with us. We're going to talk through it. Sheets, first of all, is there something we should – I don't feel like there's anything to be waiting for like we've had with other slates, so I think we just want to play our best guys. Simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
so in the first game, let's get right into it. So we're going to talk about 70% Jordan Clarkson, right? So I will give you this bit of caution, and maybe you can disagree with me or agree with me, whatever. All I'll say about this is that Clarkson, since he's been on the team, which they got him in midseason, he's been asked to come off the bench and shoot the ball a ton. You know what I mean? Without a lot of pressure, if you want to know the truth. Like they were always going to be like a 6 seed or whatever it is in the playoffs. They never really count on whatever. And they said, just go ahead and shoot all you want, whatever. I'm just a little concerned at 70% ownership that in playoff games they're not going to exactly give him the green light. You know what I mean? Like I think Donovan Mitchell is going to play 54 minutes or whatever it is. And I don't know if it's just that easy that Jordan Clarkson gets there. Now, again, he just pops so hard in projections that it's hard to not play him, especially at 30, 32 minutes or whatever it is at 3,500, whatever it is, 3,800. But I will say that this is the first time he's played where the game has mattered really since he joined the team, right? So I'm just not entirely sure that they're going to be so psyched if he shoots the ball 25 times.
Yeah, I like what you're saying. You had the same sort of initial thought I did. The one thing I would say is that I don't think he's going to be quite as high owned on DraftKings as he will be on FanDuel. Actually, it's interesting because he actually makes more sense on DraftKings because of the way the construction goes. And I don't know that I want to use one of my shooting guard spots on Jordan Clarkson on FanDuel because there's great guys to pay up for. So looking at it like that, I actually, maybe not, but the projections actually have him a little more popular on FanDuel. All right, I'm going to play some of them. I'm probably going to be below the field. I like Donovan Mitchell, obviously, quite a bit. I'm sort of stuck a little bit on this game because it feels very hard to get away from the obvious plays. And
all right, so you may as well go over it. So it's Clarkson, Mitchell, Gobert for Utah. These are the obvious ones, right? And then Denver, Jokic, and then Porter and Jamal Murray. So I guess my question to you is how much different are you going to get? Are you going to play any Millsap? Are you going to play any any other crap from Denver? Are you going to be playing Joe Ingles or any other stuff from Utah? Or can you get away with not playing any of those guys?
Yeah, I love the idea of playing Joe Ingles, who's going to be low owned. This is a great situation for him. No Conley. This is playoffs. We haven't had the real full Joe Ingles, on the court for a bunch of minutes. I love that idea as a pivot. So I actually have a lot of interest in Ingles on both sides, where I think he's going to be a little bit lower. By the way, a few people just popped into chat and said, "What's good? Hey, what's up, guys? Great to see y'all in here. It's a big day. All that stuff." We've got a lot of stuff going on today, so. I like Joe Ingles as a pivot. I like I really am going mostly with the main guys here, but I think I might have more ownership on them than maybe some other people will. I plan on having only I'll probably have about 30 to 40% Clarkson, which is probably going to be near the field. I'll be a little higher than that on Mitchell, especially on FanDuel. I like Mitchell a ton on FanDuel. Joe Ingles I love I mentioned as a pivot. Royce O'Neal is way too cheap on DraftKings. Way too cheap. And actually too cheap on FanDuel too. So I like him too. He's going to play a ton of minutes, assuming this game stays, which, no reason why we would think anything otherwise. Last time these teams played, I would like to point out, by the way, that it was like a 132-128 game that they both played like it mattered. And Royce O'Neal played 39 minutes in that game, put up 30 fantasy points. And Royce O'Neal has put up 30 fantasy points or 25 or more fantasy points in all but 2 games in the bubble, and those were the games where they only played him a few minutes. So Royce O'Neal is one of the best plays to me on both sites. I love the minutes. I love the price on DraftKings. I love the position eligibility. So those are the guys I'm looking at. And then if you want to get, I don't think it's a bad idea to try Gobert, but you're just playing the ownership game because we have great center options available, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was especially like on FanDuel. I mean, to me, it was like Embiid and Jokic, which is so clearly the top plays. And then if you wanted to go down to like Gobert and Jared Allen, you could. But again, they would have to, I would say, have at least a 10-1 ownership. You know what I mean? Like discrepancy. Like, no, you're not 10-1, but if those other guys were like 40, 35%,
yeah,
and I would want like probably 8% of those guys because those other guys are so strong.
Right, exactly. So how do we? So go back to your priorities on the Denver side because this is an interesting situation here.
Yeah, for me, I mean Jokic and Porter and
Murray.
Yeah, and Murray.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I think that Jokic is the priority. Obviously, it's so I think because of the pricing difference, and I know that we're talking about a different game. I think that we want to try to figure out a way to play Embiid on DraftKings. And I'm not saying you're going to get no ownership on him, but it does seem interesting just the price discrepancy where it's also going to make him extremely chalky on FanDuel, where I think you're going to get Jokic at lower ownership on FanDuel. See what I'm saying? So my thing on DraftKings is where I'm playing Jokic, I tend to be playing Embiid in that same lineup on DraftKings.
So you like
the hardcore core of trying to get all that from the center position, and then I have plenty of guys I can fill in around that. You're going to have to skip some of the big names, you know what I mean? But Embiid could easily, even if he only played 30 minutes tonight or even less, he could put up 75 fantasy points at the matchup. He really could.
It's such a tough sell at that price on DraftKings over Jokic.
I mean, I think Embiid gets 60 more on than not here tonight.
Okay.
I think. I look at that Boston front line and he's going to receive. I just don't see how he does it, man. I really don't. Unless he's like really banged up, which I don't think he's banged up to that point. I really don't. So but again, I still, just from a regular straight up, obviously Jokic is the better play on DraftKings, like with no doubt he's 8,500 versus 10-2. Right. But if you can play them both together, you're doing something kind of interesting there, and I like that build. I also think that people like, you've got Millsap, who's extremely in play because the Nets are going to tick up a little bit. I think Jeremy Grant is a phenomenal tournament play, and I don't think anybody's going to play him.
Wow, that's interesting.
Because you have him, he's actually going to play more minutes than Millsap, which is kind of interesting. And we've seen be able to put up a lot of fantasy points per minute. This is not the same slow down Utah team. They play a little faster now. So I kind of like Jeremy Grant as a little bit of a pivot off of what's going to be chalky Millsap. And I love Michael Porter Jr. I don't think he's getting as high of ownership, so I'm guaranteed to be ahead of the field on him. I will as much as I love Jokic, the guy on DraftKings, I may end up below the field on him on DraftKings and above on FanDuel just because of game theory reasons.
Sounds good.
All right, let's move on. What about Brooklyn?
Yeah, so I got a ton of Jared Allen on DraftKings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the way I went. I went with Jokic out and Jared Allen, and not Embiid. That's just the way I went on DraftKings. I do like him a lot. The other plays for Brooklyn, again, nothing fancy, are Karis LeVert and Joe Harris. Both of them are going to be owned, I presume, but actually maybe LeVert not as much. But I think isn't Joe Harris going to be really popular? I don't know, but he Joe Harris I like, and I'll take a shot. Again, I don't want to force stuff just because to be different. But maybe I would take another shot at Kurooks at 3,800. But that's really the extent of how far I'll go off the board, if you want to know the truth.
Yeah, I'm sort of with you on those. I actually think that we could look back at this. the guy who stands out is the guy we could look back and say, how did we not play him? Seems like Levert, right? If it goes a certain direction, he could be a 60 fantasy point scorer, which basically means you kind of have to stack this game because of the prices of Toronto. So it's kind of a weird spot because I want to stay away from it. But then at the same time, if I play Levert, I'm having a hard time not wanting to at least play one or two of those Toronto guys who are just so drastically underpriced because of the minutes that they're going to play. Last year in the playoffs, Kyle Lowry averaged 38 minutes a game. You know what I mean? That's what you're going to see from these guys. So if the game is close, I'm hoping Toronto just smashes them and we don't have to worry about it because most of my lineups don't have that, but I will have a couple little stacks like that. And I think if you play Levert, it's a good idea to run it back with obviously the mega chalk Lowry, who I'll be far below the field on just because I cannot. It is.
Wait. Hold on. So Lowry's going to be mega chalk?
I have the feeling, on FanDuel, on FanDuel, he'll be the most popular player in my opinion.
I think I don't know. On FanDuel, I had all three of those point guards going to be the same.
Who was the other two?
The fact that I have to even think about it means maybe I'm wrong. Lowry, Kemba, and Jamal Murray.
That's right. Yeah, they're all really close, but I do think that it's going to flock to. Okay, so my idea is they're all going to be owned, but I'm going to play the other guys more. I'm going to play more of Murray and Kemba personally.
So
the potential, you have to try and think of like what could happen, and there's the potential if this game blows out, maybe nobody else cracks six, and it's going to be 6 times value. I mean, my favorite play on the Toronto side in a lot of ways is OG Anunoby.
I thought he was going to be huge chalk when I first looked at these prices.
There's other discounts.
Yeah, I guess people are going to play 3,800 Clarkson. You know what I mean? Not that you can't play them both, obviously, but Anunoby's the man. I mean, I like him. I like you said, I like all those Toronto guys.
You could build like a lineup with. And I know this other guy's going to sound gross to you, but I think he's a legitimate play, like a really, really in play tonight. It feels weird to say this on a playoff slate, but Garrett Temple. Garrett Temple is
that's not who I thought you were going to say at all. I got another grosser one.
I like the Temple in the game stack. So Temple is going to play the meaningful minutes down the stretch in a tight game. So if you're going to play Levert and you're going to play it back with the other guys, maybe include Temple as a separate play instead of Jordan Clarkson or along with Jordan Clarkson. No matter what, you're going to get very low ownership on a guy that could easily put up 30 fantasy points and is going to be overlooked and fits nicely into a game stack that's going to end up being really cheap, and you can do whatever you want elsewhere. So it's a sort of stack or fade somewhat situation in this game, I guess is what I'm saying for me. And the Toronto ownership is so absurdly high that we've got it. Like the guys all make great sense, but I just have to be underweight on all of them.
Yeah, so here's my GP. Please, here's my mad scientist. But you want to get 12x and win the slate or lose instantly. You want to play Marc Gasol at 4,300?
I actually have no problem with Marc Gasol at all. But again, I would prefer it if he's playing as a part of a stack. Like, you know what I mean? It just makes more sense that the game being close is going to lean to. I don't want to just play those guys, and also you include Harris on the other side too, Joe Harris. Like you can make a nice little 6-man, 5-man stack, whatever, and have 3 awesome spend-ups left. We just got news, by the way, that Juwan Morgan is starting instead of Clarkson, which is a great sign for Clarkson. It might mean he's lower owned, and it definitely means he's in a better spot. Now he gets the non-Mitchell minutes off the bench and the Mitchell minutes too, but by then Mitchell also is going to have played 6-7 minutes at high pace, and you got Clarkson taking over some of the offensive responsibilities. They struggle without him. They're going to really rely on him. I think it lends itself much better to a Jordan Clarkson play after that news. So I'm bumping up Clarkson with him not starting.
Yeah. So the other thing, just remember also, I think that Mitchell. I mean, I think there's probably a grand total of 6 non-Donovan Mitchell minutes in the whole game. He's going to be out there.
Yeah, you can imagine he'd be out there.
Yeah. So and that was really my only other comment with the Toronto game, aside the normal plays, is that I see universes where Marc Gasol gets 50 fantasy points, and considering that you have Jokic and Embiid and other at the center position, people want to play and Jared Allen.
Did you say Marc Gasol for 50 fantasy points?
Sure, why not?
Oh, right. Wow, I wasn't even thinking about that number. I was hoping for like 30 or something.
Yeah, well, you could hope for it, but I mean, certainly possible. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, hey, it's possible. You want to move on to what's going to be a really, really fun series?
Yep.
Philly and Boston. What are we doing here, bud?
Yeah, so on FanDuel, Embiid's between him and Jokic is kind of a must play. I mean, certainly a must consider.
Yeah.
The only other guy I had any interest in at all on Philly was Tobias Harris. I wasn't getting literally to anybody else. So you can kind of either talk me off more people, onto more people, or whatever it is. And on the Celtics side, Tatum on FanDuel is one of the very few power forwards that I like. And he's going to be probably not the most popular, but at least the second most popular. And then I like, as I mentioned before, I like Kemba on FanDuel. I didn't get to him on DraftKings, although I have to look a little more. And then I like the Hayward and the Brown on FanDuel as well. And the guy I'm getting to, and I'm getting like a couple of lineups with him is Semi Ojeleye at 3K. That's the deal. I don't think it's the greatest.
Wait. Can I just ask you where that one came from?
I don't know.
No, because I don't even have him projected as is he even on the roster?
Yeah, sure.
Are you sure of that?
Yeah, no. I mean, again, he's the one I did my first crunch, and that's the only way I'm mentioning him as a Celtic. Yeah, I'm probably not going to end up using. But
I don't have him in the top 11 rotation of the rotation.
That's pretty funny.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that's. I don't think this is the best of the fantasy games. Let's put it that way.
So I actually have a different take on this game, and I think it's either make money or lose money. I am loving every part of Philly.
Oh, let's go! All right,
they are all underpriced. They're all in a much better spot. They have they're priced, by the way, cheap they're too cheap. Even if Ben Simmons was playing, Ben Simmons is out. Let's remember this. Al Horford is going to play 30 minutes, and he's 5,300 and going to be very low owned on FanDuel, and he's going to be very low owned on DraftKings too. On these kind of slates, anything in the teens would blow on. Tobias Harris, I'm showing him around 20% on FanDuel at 7,100. Are we kidding? Tobias Harris has been a usage monster and only playing 20 minutes a game without it's a tougher defensive matchup, sure. But in 24 minutes of his last two games, he put up 42 and 35 fantasy points those are his two games without. Tobias Harris should be a priority play on the slate on both sites. If you want to try and get different in tournaments, that's a great guy to use. Josh Richardson is going to be completely unowned. Let's not forget what happened the first game out where they had no Ben, and they were still fighting for the 5 seed. Josh Richardson goes out there and puts up 46 fantasy points against Portland. I mean, it is Portland, sure. It's a different matchup. But you're going to see a lot of Josh Richardson. Now, if that doesn't work, if the starting lineup doesn't work or anything is sort of out of sync, which is very predictably possible for Philly, what about sliding in Alec Burks? Alec Burks is a huge tournament. He could win someone a GPP on this freaking slate. Much harder to play on FanDuel because of the shooting guard position. But on DraftKings, I think he's a phenomenal pivot off of the other guys we talked about or to play in addition with. And he would be – the minutes are lower for him, but the production could be incredibly high. Let's look at the games really quickly without Ben Simmons. He only played 22 minutes and he put up 35 against Houston because they were up by 45 points. He played 27 minutes against Phoenix. He put up 34. He played 23 minutes against Portland. He put up 28. He played 27 minutes against Orlando. He put up 28. This could be an even better situation if they really do need that punch off the bench. Not to mention that Josh Richardson can get foul prone and Shake Milton is a question mark. So Alec Burks is a long tournament pivot, but mostly it's Embiid, Harris, Horford, Richardson. You'd be overweight on all these guys. Take the Toronto ownership and focus it on them. They're going to have a very condensed, tight rotation. It's going to be very, very few people that can score fantasy points for them. And those are the ones that it's going to be. Matisse Thybulle is not the worst idea in the world because they might need him defensively to play 30-plus minutes. That's the other option you could look at, too. On the Boston side, I'm going to be a little bit below the field on Tatum, although I like him. I just think that he's going to have a little bit more ownership than Jaylen Brown and then Kemba I like so much. So I'm going to play a lot of Jaylen Brown and Kemba. That's just sort of a preference thing. But I'm fine with Tatum, too. I like him just, again, a little bit ahead of the field of everybody else on this team except for Tatum and except for Gordon Hayward, who I don't mind, but I'm just not going to go there. I'm going to play Kemba and Brown as my priorities here. One or two lines with Tyser Smart.
That's that. You're definitely going to be you're definitely going to be different with that because I don't think that a lot of people are going to be playing all these Philly guys.
I mean, look at the usage on these guys. I know the matchup's tough, but give me a break. if Embiid doesn't just destroy, and even if he does, they still might get there. But if Embiid doesn't dominate, those guys you might see 3 of those guys on the winning lineup. That's just my take. And that game has to stay close, obviously, but I think it will. Do you want to move to the final, the big one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so you didn't like all that stuff.
I didn't like any of that.
Dallas, what are we doing, bud?
I know what you're doing.
Well, actually, you might not know what I'm doing today.
I'm playing Luka. I'd like to play Luka Doncic. I think he's really a good basketball player.
He's a good basketball player. I like that assessment.
I don't think I'm getting to Kristaps on DraftKings, but on FanDuel he's kind of tough to fade at that position. And I wouldn't play anybody else on Dallas. You want to know the truth? On the Clippers side, I'm looking for something to do. I mean, there's Kawhi, there's Paul George, and there's secondary play Zubac, and that was pretty much all I came up with.
This is an incredible matchup for the Clippers. I just don't. It's hard. So I basically want to be over the field. I'm different tonight. I do want to be over the field on Luka and Kristaps. I'm not. I think Luka is actually not getting the attention that he should because of the matchup. And yeah, while the matchup's tough, I've seen Luka do this before. It doesn't matter, man. He's gonna put up numbers. You know what I mean in this game. These guys are not going to shut him down they might shut him down from a winning, and maybe they really hold him up, and maybe you can worry about Dallas losing the game badly. But I don't think you have to worry about his production while on the court. He's going to get rebound. This guy is the best rebounding guard in the history of basketball. He's going to rebound. Well, he's other than Westbrook, but he's going to rebound. He's going to score, and he's going to get double-digit assists. He's going to have a great triple-double. That automatically is going to give him plenty of points. The usage should be 40 for him. I kind of like if they do take the ball out of his hands, like I liked initially trying to think of the other guys. Then it started to feel more reachy. But I do think if you're going to do it, Steph Curry is the guy. He actually plays well with these guys. He doesn't necessarily do better without them because the attention they get creates him wide open shots. So on drafting, especially where the 3-pointer is more valuable, I think Steph Curry play. I just don't know how much I'll really get to him. I do want to be ahead of the field though on Luka and Kristaps. I think Kristaps has the better matchup. I think that he's the safer play actually, which is really weird to say. The only time Luka has really gone nuts and that Kristaps hasn't really gone nuts has been when he's fouled out. That's pretty much it. So I'm just going to keep playing Luka and Kristaps, and then I'm also going to play Luka tonight. I just am having a hard time with the Clippers. I honestly, the weirdest thing, and this might be really good for me or really bad for me, I think I might play the Lou Williams angle and just forget the other guys. He looked terrific to me the other day. So if you're going to play a full stack and you're going to play both Kristaps and Luka, I think you probably do want one of Paul George or Kawhi, and I would lean Paul George just because then you probably need the savings. But I like Kawhi too actually tonight. This is the spot where I do like Kawhi. But Lou Williams.
I was going to ask you about that, because you're usually I don't want to say down on them, but you think that they kind of underproject.
They do but now we're talking about playoffs, buddy. This is a whole different story. We got Kawhi. Yeah. People forget this. People talk about how Kawhi is so efficient, all this stuff. That game where he hit that rattling shot against Philly last year, he shot the ball 3 times, 43. This is a different version you get now. He didn't have Kawhi Leonard, but he had a pretty good team around him. I'm sorry, Paul George, but he had a good team around him. So let me just make my Lou Williams case real quick. Unowned.
Yeah.
5K, who I'm projecting to score 30-plus fantasy points everywhere. I don't care what the projection systems say. I've looked at it. I've got my projected minutes. I've got his projected usage, and the fact that Dallas allows this many threes. They can't guard the screen and roll. This just feels like a Lou Williams dream matchup, and I'll take the no ownership. He could end up scoring the same. They could all end up in the 40s. Him, Paul George, and Kawhi. That's only good, obviously, for Lou Williams. And I think that's a really good possibility. I like that Harrell's going to be back for part of it. He's got his screen and roll buddy. A little bit worried that they might want Beverly to stay out there on Luka actually instead of the other guys. But I think that more often than not, you're going to see Lou Williams come in late in the first quarter and have plenty of open looks. And if he's got it going, you might see Lou Williams just be the guy who crushes and wins somebody at GPP. Better play on DraftKings, obviously, because of the 3-point shot. But I'm telling you, man, these guys, there's going to be a lot of scoring in this game. If I was betting to get this game, I would bet the over in a heartbeat. Although I am nervous about Clippers' playoff defense because I'm looking at their team and they've got 3 of the best defensive 5 players in the NBA probably. But
could you review your Philly take for a minute? I mean, did you like any of I forgot what you said. Did you like any of the bench guys like Thibault or anybody like that?
Thibault I like. I don't know that he counts as a bench guy. I don't even know for sure that he's not starting in this game. I mean, he probably won't, but there's a path where he ends up getting the starters minutes because of having to guard Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Gordon Hayward are all going to require a little better defense than what Alec Burks provides. The thing is that Alec Burks provides all of the offense that we get none from Thibault. So both of those guys are interesting plays, but I like Burks much better for upside.
I'm pretty sure that my favorite play. Like, let's talk about these guys for a minute. Like, how would you rank, given ownership, given all of it, but OG Anunoby, Jordan Clarkson, and I'll just throw in Joe Harris now.
OG Anunoby, Joe Harris. So you're looking at a 4-point. Did you send me like a range or something? So let's see. It's
I was just these are just guys that are
kind
of like
Joe Harris. I'm less interested in outside unless I'm playing players from that game. But I actually like him. Like I think he's a good play. I just would rather play him in lineups where I can get the ceiling out of him, which is going to probably require 30 plus minutes because not the highest fantasy point per minute guy in the world. So he's fine. So a great example for me would be instead of Joe Harris, I would rather play Joe Ingles at lower ownership in a game that should be competitive without Mike, where he's getting more of a bump, where Joe Harris is not really getting that extra bump. Yeah, he's missing all the guys he's been missing for a while. You know what I mean?
Right.
So Joe Ingles gets the immediate bump of the no Conley, in my opinion. So I would prefer Joe Ingles over Joe Harris. And who was the other guy? You mentioned Anunoby. I like Anunoby better, but again, I worry a little about the game. I really am starting to come around to I just think that the Royce O'Neal thing, it's the close to a lock button on DraftKings for me that I can think of right now. Because Royce O'Neal, I just think the minutes are so secure. I don't know if I can really do it. I mean, I'm telling you, the guy hasn't put up less than 25 in a game that he played regular minutes in forever. I'm going to probably have him a good amount. I'll just say it that way.
I'm gonna. You know what I'm gonna probably end up doing after all that talk. Just because he's coming off the bench now, maybe he won't be 1,000%. I might lock in Clarkson after all that.
You might lock in who?
Clarkson after all that.
I mean, I like Clarkson too, but yeah.
Well, I'm really weird when I'm doing an NBA. I'm playing I'm just playing the. It was kind of a bad slate, bad bunch of tournaments actually they ran today. On DraftKings. I mean, look, they have the big one for you. You know what I mean? And they have the whatchamacallit, the 25 or whatever that is. But like these single entries are pretty awful. I mean, they're like the guarantees are bad. I mean, I'm really not happy about it.
Yeah, a lot of people are concerned about this, by the way, and I'm disappointed as well. But I'm the big ones.
So I'm actually what I did. Just so you guys know, I mean, I max entered the FanDuel one, and then I also put like 30 entries in the sub one like that. You know, the 15 that has could go. I mean, I'm not putting 150 into that thing, but so I'm doing like 30 entries into that. And then I'm also playing some good. So I'm playing more on FanDuel than I'm on DraftKings, just because I don't play the 888. So aside from that one, there really was. I was kind of a little disappointed that they didn't give better like single entry ones and things like that.
Let's. I'm just going to jump into a few quick questions. I was disappointed at the slate as well, but I'm happy it's not a 2-day slate, which is what I was expecting.
I'm
not touching that thing. I mean, I would it's not the bigger tournaments though. Everybody said it was bigger. It's actually.
No, not at all. They're very small. I
just thought it was funny though that everybody said it was bigger. So I'm just looking real quick at a few questions. Eric says he likes Shake Milton. I actually think Shake Milton's an interesting tournament play. Favorite game stack, he's heavy on Utah. It's easy to be. I think that's one that makes a lot of sense. I think that your long shot games. I sort of am finding myself into this Philly Boston situation because of the pricing and condensed usage. So that's a little bit where I'm finding, especially on the Philly side, and just to get off the ownerships, that's a little bit what I'm leaning towards. I do think that Brooklyn and Toronto will make a lot of sense if that game does stay close. Is Clarkson a fade? I don't think he's a fade. I would play him definitely some. Let's see, FD worked. I don't know what that means from Cody, but something. All right, guys, just want to catch up. Last QQs, get them in there because we're going to go out here in a minute. My computer goes a little slow, so my editing at the end is a little tricky.
I think that I'll tell you. I think this. A couple of comments. Number one, I think this Nets this Nets stack, this Nets Toronto stack could be a little more valuable than a lot of people think. I think the Nets can push Toronto here. And if they do, it's going to be because LeVert has like 60 fantasy points, which is certainly he's certainly throwing it up there. That's one thing. The other thing is it's funny. Like when I always wonder how these companies like come up with ownerships, and a lot of them actually have like scanners just saying like how many times a certain guy is mentioned and this and the other thing. Do you know that like in our review here, the guy who I think was mentioned the least relative to his upside is probably Michael.
I mentioned him at the very beginning, though. I said I'm gonna be doubled.
I know that. You know what I mean? But we mentioned, but he is. I mean, he's been just on not another level, whatever. He's finally emerged, and he's going to be playing 36 minutes.
The fact that Jamal Murray's back to say that it's going to take away his usage, and while there's some truth to that, he scored 55 against this team when Jamal Murray's first came back, and Jamal Murray scored 50. So there's room for both. There's definitely some room.
Yeah, I also say another thing that I comment. I mean, again, these are like kind of weird takes, but I mentioned this a couple of slates ago that Porter's presence has impacted Jokic's rebounding to some degree. Like Porter's very aggressive on the defensive glass. You know what I mean? And then so that makes Jokic a little, I don't want to say fishier. Well, that's the best wrong way to describe it. But I don't know if he's got that same big 70-point ceiling. You know what I mean?
Say this, they've played a number of teams that had centers that were playing stretch positions, and now they get to play one who's inside like Gobert. I think the rebounding upside is probably a little bit higher today than it was for the previous games. But there's a great point that you're making. You're right. It hurt his rebounds completely, and I totally was with you on that.
Hey, and two other guys I want to just throw out there before we have to run. One guy you mentioned really quickly. The other guy I threw out there you didn't comment on too much. What do you think of? You mentioned you like Seth Curry a little bit.
I just think he's an interesting tournament play. Yeah, I don't know how much I'll end up getting to him, but he's one of the guys who I see. I don't like him on FanDuel where he's actually going to have some ownership. I don't really understand. Like, I think the shooting guard position is pretty good on FanDuel, so I'm not going to use him over there. But I do think I might maybe in one or two lineups, but mostly it'll be on DraftKings for me.
And did you have any interest in going back to that net game for some reason in Kurux or not really?
It's like one of those things where I find myself like when I play, like I'm like, what am I doing? Maybe on FanDuel is a total. I don't know. It just doesn't feel right.
Hey, you know what we'll do before we go? What I'm going to do is I'm going to run through my favorite FanDuel players by position.
Let's do it.
And then we'll do it. So at center, I like Jokic and Embiid both equally. They're going to be chalky, but whatever. And then all the way down, Allen, Gobert. Power forward for me, it was again at the top, Kristaps and Tatum, and then Millsap actually there, and Michael Porter Jr. Small forward, Siakam and Kawhi, clearly the best. But then there's Hayward and Brown and Joe Harris, Tobias Harris, and Anunoby, really strong value there as well.
So I wanted to say that I messed up my first build on FanDuel for my big lineup because I ended up trying to pay down too much. But you should really make sure you get a good small forward in because there's a lot of good options.
Okay. Point guard, on FanDuel, I'm playing 3 point guards total, and it's the 3 chalky ones. It's going to be Murray, Kemba, and Lowry. I don't know which one I like the most, so whichever one's the lowest owned, I guess I'll weight that higher. But, I mean, that's really splitting hairs for me. And shooting guard, Clarkson on FanDuel as well, Paul George, LeVert, Donovan Mitchell, and Fred VanVleet. Yeah,
so by the way, it is interesting because Curry is going to get a little bit of ownership at point guard on FanDuel, which is interesting. I don't like that. Like, I don't want I like the other 3 enough to where it's hard to argue with using too many other guys. The only other guys I would consider would be Patrick Beverley, Seth Curry, and Reggie Jackson, but they're all very long shot tournament plays.
What about Patrick?
And Shake Milton. Shake Milton would be the other one. Yeah, it's just too much of a wild card with Patrick Beverley. We have no idea how many minutes he's going to play. I don't know. He's also not like a high point per minute guy, but he could. I don't think it's a smart play. I think Shake Milton's the better play, to be honest. All right.
So I guess we should go so that we can
let me real quick go through mine because we were doing that actually pretty similar to you. Point guard Kemba, then Kemba Murray as the same, and then right behind them Lowry because I need to get off some ownership. Highest owned shooting guards. Luka, Clarkson, then Mitchell. Sorry, Luka, then Mitchell, then Clarkson, then Paul George, then Fred VanVleet, then Lou Williams, then Karis LeVert. Those are my shooting guards, and I'll mix in Alec Burks and Garrett Temple and Josh Richardson a tiny bit in long shot plays. But I like. What's that?
I'm sorry. When you're done with your positions, I have one kind of morning grind question for you.
Okay, let's do it. Well, a small forward. I love Tobias Harris. I like Jaylen Brown quite a bit, but Tobias Harris would be my priority at small forward to spend up on. And I like Anunoby a ton. He'd be my next guy, followed by Joe Ingles, then Siakam, and then Kawhi. Just again, I have to get off some of that ownership when I want to play other chalky guys. So getting less of Siakam and less of Kawhi is one way I'm doing it. I don't feel great about it. I think Siakam is like one of the most obvious cash game plays on FanDuel. I just think that I would rather skip it and take the tournament upside. And honestly, a guy who I think is going to outscore tonight is Tobias Harris. So I'm going to play that route. And then the last one I'm going to get to. The last position. Power forward is really easy. Not really easy, but it's really obvious of what you're going to want to try and do. It's going to be Kristaps. Most people are going to try to play him, and I think that's fine. But I would just go mostly with a Kristaps Porter lineup, and then I will throw in a couple Royce O'Neals and Porzingis, which I like a lot. And I'm almost considering that over Porter. And then I also will throw in Jeremy Grant and Paul Millsap, but mostly it'll be Grant as a longer shot play. I think Millsap's going to have a little more I want tonight, where Grant is just as likely to, in my opinion, to have a higher fantasy point game. So I like Embiid over Jokic. I think this is really odd because I'm looking at ownership projections. And basically, Jokic is a tiny bit more popular. The stranger part is on DraftKings, they're considered to be owned about the same, and Jokic is about $2K cheaper. That's a little odd, don't you think?
Jokic will be much higher owned than
I agree, but it just seems strange that projections are saying. Yeah, if you're not playing them, you're playing Gobert or Jared Allen. I don't really think you can consider anyone else. A little bit at 4.9 on FanDuel, probably not in play. But at 4 on DraftKings, I think you can play him.
All right, so this is what we're going to do. You're going to give me two guys that are going to be on the winning lineup that are under 10% owned.
Well, I don't know if two guys will be on the winning lineup that are under 10% owned.
But you give me two guys and one of them. I want one of them to be on the winning lineup.
Okay, one of them. Okay. All right, it's going to be hard to find guys. But I guess I'll go back to my original guy.
I'm going to steal one of yours, by the way.
I'm gonna go with Alec Burks.
Ooh, I like it.
And the other one is going to be a weird. I mean, that's the really weird one. The other one's going to be a different kind of one. Who's yours?
Okay, my two guys are one I mentioned earlier, Marc Gasol, and the other one you're totally selling me on this guy. And I'm glad it's coming later because I might end up swapping into some of them. This is going to be the 50-point Lou Williams game, I think.
I'm into it, man. I'm so feeling it. I think it's going to be my other guy too. But I will throw out one other guy just because it's possible. And I really prefer the more middle Philly guys. But I think that Josh Richardson has a chance to be, and he's going to be under 10%. That's the only reason I mentioned him.
Hey, I have a question for you, real quick. Is Montrezl Harrell back?
Yep.
Is he back playing full minutes?
Nope.
Okay.
I think probably 20 minutes, I would guess. You can't play him anyway on this slate. I don't know. I see any positive to it quite.
No. I'm just saying. Okay.
Yeah, no.
He's going to be popular, but what about Zubac at 4,100?
I don't think he's going to be popular.
Ooh.
I'm not interested personally, but you guys are welcome to do it. What's that?
Okay.
I mean, I'm totally fine with it. I just think there's other spots. Actually, you know what? I am fine with it. I just think that I don't know how much he's going to play. I don't know. And that's fine. Yeah, embrace a little variance. Why not? All right, guys. We got Joe Harris. Eric, I like Joe Harris. I don't think I'm going to go crazy with Joe Harris. I would prefer to play him as a part of a mini stack in that game because I'm afraid if that game blows out that he may not get his ceiling potential. That's my answer there. I'll make one prediction of who's going to win a game today, though. Well, actually, I don't have a bold one, really. I guess that, I actually like this Boston team, and I think they win this series. But I like Philly to come out strong today.
Interesting.
So I'm going to take a weird one that I think other people are not going to be on. How about you? Give me one upset. Is there an upset you like?
Yeah. I like. No, this is brutal. Yeah, I like the Nets.
Oh, I love it. Let's go Nets. They did win the first game last year. That was Orlando who beat Toronto the first game last year. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you guys. It was nice to have people in the chat. Hopefully, you guys are watching this now or later, and you got some out of it. We did a lot of video show on the YouTube channel, so check that out. For Sheets, I'm Bobby saying we are out of here. Good luck tonight.